Wow, I'm excited. Hi, everybody.
Hello,
I'm
hello.
excited. Hello. We're excited for
Oh
you.
my gosh. Yes, yes, yes. So we are here to discuss the Interior Joy Women's Focus Study. So we are representing the Interior Joy session. This is the wonderful lead team. We have all the ladies here. We have two other individuals who weren't able to make it, but we are going to hold down the fort here and share with everyone what this wonderful Interior Joy movement is all about. So we have Miss Sanji Joyner here with us, and also Raysharn Spain Beam. And I am Sharice Holder. I'm the facilitator for the Interior Joy session team here. So we're all part of the same team, ready to bring some joy to the lives of women who are ready to just make some wonderful changes to their homes and to their lives. So welcome,
Amen.
ladies.
Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely,
Good
absolutely.
to see you.
Good to see you all too. Y'all look marvelous, darlings. Just marvelous. So I wanted to do this, I call it a podcast. I made up a term, video cast. I don't even know if that exists, but that because we're here in person live, but we also just want to have the ability to make it audio for a podcast as well if we want to do that. So I just wanted to be just relaxed and share with all the ladies out there what Interior Joy is all about. So I guess I will go ahead and start with Raysharn and ask you, Raysharn, what does Interior Joy mean to you? Because you've taken the session, both you and Sanji have taken the Interior Joy session, and because of that, have then decided to join our team. So what does Interior Joy really mean?
Well, for me, it's been a journey. When I first took the class, when I was just a participant, it took me through a journey of things going on in my home, but also things in my life, because sometimes they correlate. They are definitely part of the same process that we're going through. If we're dealing with mess, sometimes we create mess, or there's mess that accumulates in our house because we don't want to deal with it. We push it aside, much how we may do internally. If we're dealing with some things or have issues going on, we may internalize it, and we just, flood ourselves with so many things. And for me, the process of going through the journey, like in my office, that was one of the things that I used when I was in Interior Joy. I did a transformation of my office. I'm a beader. I was a scrapbooker, photography. So all of these things went on in my office, in addition to any computer work that I did. So it became a mess because I had so many things going on, and it wasn't an organization to it. So I used Interior Joy to transform that office, which also gave me much more peace when I came to the office. Instead of seeing all this craziness, you're like, "Ooh, I don't even want to be in here." And you just go out and close the door.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes what we do in our lives. We don't want to deal with the mess, so we just shut it. We just shut the door on so many different things. But it gave me the opportunity to have an office that I didn't mind coming to, that wasn't filled with everything else from the house as the storage space, and just moved all of that stuff out. And it took a while. It was a process. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It's not a weekend warrior project. It doesn't take just 10 minutes. So you really have to put the time in to say, hey, what do I want my space to look like? When I come home, where's the joy going to be when I open this door? We often watch all these shows, and you see people light up when they come into their new space. And that's what we want for ourselves. Every time we come to that space, we want it to light up and say, hey, this is my internal space where I can just have my moments, or whatever it is. And you can do that through every part of your house. From even in the bathroom. I mean, we all want, we know the bathroom is not that great place, but I love my bathroom. I love the scents and everything that I've done to it, because it is a peaceful place. So when I go to take a nice bath, I really enjoy the space.
Good. That's good. Now, I do want to back up a little bit before I get to Sanji. Share with the audience a little bit of, who you are, what you do. I want them to get to know you a little bit as well. So that should have been my first question, actually.
So I am an architect by training. So I've been an architect for over 30 years now. And I do residential architecture most of the time, as my side business or side things what people ask me to do. But during the day, it's mostly commercial storefronts, large buildings, from hospitals to arenas, all the different types of architecture and engineering things. In my spare time, I have also launched a jewelry business and a Christian art business. So the Christian art business is definitely by commission only, but the jewelry business is something that I delved into quite by accident. There was a function at church and I needed a necklace to go with something. It was out of season for those colors. And I just went to a store, a bead store, and said, hey, I need to make a necklace to go with this. And the woman showed me how at the counter, and a business was jump started right from there. But I enjoy the jewelry business. It's been 10 years, but I use so many different things that I have collected over the years or that I find interesting, in addition to gemstones, crystals, and all of those things. So like the necklace I have on now, it's called Bubbles, but it's one of those things that I love it. It's my effervescence necklace. I always say, you know, my best friend always calls it my spumante necklace because she was like, it just gives her such joy.
Oh,
and that's one of those things that can bring someone joy, is just having a piece of jewelry.
Yes. Oh, yes. We can get all deep dive into all this cool stuff, but we're going to try to keep it right there so that we can let the ladies know. And then we want to dive a little bit more into that because I love that. That's excellent. All right, Sanji, tell us a little bit about yourself and what interior joy means to you.
Sure. So my name is Sanji Joyner, and I am a communications and marketing major by day, manager rather by day. And I also have a side business similar to you, Rashawn, not as, I won't say as creative as design, but still in marketing and still communications, video, productions, all things creative, helping folks build their businesses and tell authentic stories. So I love anything that's creative, anything from fashion design to interior design to online, digital. I really, really, really thrive in that space. And I think that that is the gift that God has given me. I don't think I know that. And I love interior joy for a lot of reasons. One, because we're surrounded by such creative people like yourself, Sharice, and like you, Rashawn, you know, and we establish these relationships with the ladies that transcend beyond just what we see on a screen, right? And for me personally, it really, really taught me how to have more gratitude about the things that I already have in my life, especially in a day and age where social media and, you know, these comparison traps we have, right? So we watch HTV, like HGTV, like you said, and we're like, oh my gosh, for $50,000, they transformed this room in 4 weeks. That's not always realistic from a budgetary perspective, nor from a time perspective, right? Like I'm a mom, I have 2 jobs. I also teach at a collegiate level at higher institution. And so that is not necessarily my life or the season that I'm in. And so this class, God really, really taught me how to be more purposeful and more intentional in having gratitude for the things I already have. Like I can see things a little different. So now the chair doesn't have to be, oh my gosh, why does my husband want to keep this recliner? Now it can be like, let's redo it and everybody's happy.
Yes,
so
I love it.
Shifting the mindset. And I loved that about the class, and loved every last one of the ladies and just all their ideas and just how we support each other, especially where we're kind of isolated, but together, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes. Wow.
That's a long-winded answer.
No, not at all. It's perfect. It's perfect. And I'm glad you both talked about that and mentioned how important focusing on the interior space first before we even begin to focus on the environment in which we live. Because if we're just fixing the environment, fixing the room, decorating the room, and we're not addressing the heart and the soul that is actually creating the room, then it's going to be short-lived, or it's going to feel inauthentic, or we're going to do that whole comparison thing, as you mentioned, and we're looking at the HGTV and we're looking, now we have, right, the internet. I don't even know if you call it internet anymore, but we got social media.
Yeah.
And we have so much more available to us, and the things that we're seeing. We love these shows. We love all these great opportunities to get this information, but it unfortunately also opens the door to the comparison, to feeling inadequate, to feeling, to the comparisons, like I mentioned. So I'm so glad you all brought that up, because this session, Interior Joy, is really not exactly what people might think it is. It's so much deeper. It's so much more enriching and fulfilling. And again, talking about starting from the inside, the interior space of the heart. That's why it's called Interior Joy. Starting with the interior spaces of the heart, then working that out into the interior spaces of your home. And then, of course, putting God first.
Amen. Yeah.
Putting God first. So it's amazing how, of course, we all know there's nothing new under the sun, and everything we ever need to know is in the Bible. So the Bible principles that are used in the Interior Joy session, used to transform spaces, it's real. So we're talking about purpose and planning and order and being wonderfully and uniquely designed. And lighting, God talks about being the light, and the color. So all of these are God principles, and they can be used to transform your space. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Sharice Holder. I wrote the book, and I'm ecstatic to have Sanji and Rayshawn on the team, because these ladies are incredible. You're so creative, and each person has their unique perspective on the home and also the God principles. We're all members of the same church, and once we begin to advertise the church and where the sessions are going to be, we'll talk more about that. But for right now, we just want everyone to know that the Interior Joy session will be starting in the fall, starting September 10 to October 22nd, and you will get more insight to exactly how to register. So all of that is coming up. So excellent. So I do have another question for you all. This is good. This is good. So what was your experience when you took the session, whether it's with your group or whatever? Just jump. We'll go start with you, Sanji. What was your experience in the session?
Sure. And I will say I had the pleasure of having Rashawn in my session, and my team. I won't even say that I led the team, but just kind of coached the team. Those women were very, very creative. And so they created a prayer room. And I'm talking about like a lot of people who never had design experience or doing 3D renderings. Rashawn was really great with guiding everyone through that process, and coming up with a beautiful, beautiful space that not only I could see myself using, right? But also all of the ladies, and just how does that become a reality? Like you start to get excited because you're like, oh, okay, this is real. Like I can actually do something like this, and I can create it from scratch. And I think it gave a lot of women, not just inspiration, but the confidence that they needed to transform something, and not just, again, compared to what you see online or on television, but really like I'm equipped with the tools. I've learned how I can really transform a space. And I actually did that myself, from a closet to now this office. Had to do the same thing. And it's really learning all of the things like measuring your space, and just an incredible session and an incredible time with the women. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yes, indeed. All right, Rayshawn.
Wow, for me, I think the ladies were so great. They really surprised. Of course, you don't need design experience to take Interior Joy. It is not something that you have to have. That is by no means a prerequisite. But I think the ladies really enjoyed learning how to use that software. Some definitely were more challenged than others, but they really took it to heart and said, hey, we're going to master this. And so we had our sessions sometimes after the class.
Mhm.
And I think they really transformed a lot of their spaces. One lady in particular really just fascinated me because she really just didn't understand the whole measurement thing. But once we got it down, she was able to do it. And because we were virtual, you know, I'm that hands-on person, I couldn't get to her, but we had many conversations to get her to that point. But her space, when she transformed it and changed it around, gave her so much more space, and that gave her much more joy. So for me, that was the awesome part of the class, in addition to just reaching out to the ladies, learning how they operate. And with the prayer room that Sanji talked about, we all started with an element that we had in our home. So it wasn't something, a picture. So every element that was placed in the room came from something that someone had. So whether it was a pillow, you know, we would use Room Styler to find something that closely resembled what they had.
Yes.
And that's how we built the room. And that's where the interior joy comes from, especially when you don't have a whole lot, but we all have a lot of stuff in our houses that if we take it from one room and put it somewhere else, it suddenly transforms that space.
Yeah.
Whether it's artwork, we all buy like 50 million pillows. I know my sister does. And so she can move them from room to room, and it suddenly transforms that space.
Yeah.
And so I think for me, the ladies were incredible to work with. I enjoyed them tremendously, and I look forward to new ladies and how they're going to transform their spaces and their lives.
I also think, because I could see a transformation just from the beginning to the end, and just I don't want to say personality, but just like, you know, feeling stuck, for lack of words. Like, here I am, we're in a pandemic. I don't know, from beginning of the class to when the prayer room was done, and just her countenance and her how she came across as a much more confident, and, like she said, much more joyful person. So that's that is beyond us.
And
Yes, exactly.
And one of the
exactly.
things about the interior joy and the transformation process is that she did have a dark space. She loved dark colors, but there was so much darkness. And we know sometimes when you come into dark spaces, it makes you feel dark.
Yeah.
And so the suggestion was to brighten it up with colors, and, you know, not several bright colors, but she had to morph into that and slowly grow into saying, okay, I can use a color in here. But she was open to the idea. And that's the other part of interior joy, that you have to be open to wanting to change and wanting to transform.
Wow.
That's a word. And
that is word.
It's for all ages.
Yes.
So it's not, you know, it's no set age for this. And to me, just like you just said, you have to be open to it. So for someone who's a little bit of a seasoned saint, as we like to say, you know, just to have the mindset to be willing to be open to change is a big, big deal.
It's huge. You all brought up so many points. I'm trying to remember which ones to highlight, but definitely being open is so key, because you're going to get so much out of the session when you're open, your heart is open and your mind is open, and we are also honoring God in the process. So it puts it on a whole new level, and starting with that different perspective. And so that's the beautiful thing. And like you said, all ages are welcome. All ages of welcome. Doesn't matter if you have a room or an apartment or a home. Everyone is welcome to participate in that. And then just going back to how critical the interior spaces of our heart. I don't know if you all are familiar with Martha Beck, but she is she wrote an article, and she really highlights the importance of the home. And she made a quote. Her quote says, "The spaces we shape also shape us." Isn't that deep?
Yes.
And that is what this session is all about, how our spaces shape us and we shape our spaces. And you can actually take and look at your space as it is right now, describe that space, and it is also describing the interior space of you.
Absolutely.
Yes, it is. And so there's so much deeper meaning to the process. So if you're willing and you're open, you're going to come out the other side. You're going to go from point A to point B, and you're going to come out the other end with a change. So that was going to be my next question. Can women really actually change their space after the end of this session?
I believe so. Yeah, I think so. Absolutely. I think you have enough tools to be able
Hmm.
to start the process.
Yes.
And to be honest, you have experts, right? So between
Hmm.
yourself or even Miss Bernice or Rashawn, like I leaned into Rashawn after the class is over and
Indeed.
transformed a
Hmm.
major space and leaned into you as well. So I
Hmm.
think that's a golden opportunity for a lot of women who, don't know where to get started or,
Yes.
are not right at the point where their budget could afford them to do a major renovation, but
Hmm.
you can start
Hmm.
somewhere, and this class is really, or this session is really helpful
Hmm.
for that. So yeah, I absolutely think so.
Definitely, because they're going through the 10 steps, right, Rayshawn?
Absolutely. I mean, I totally agree. And I think, one thing, people are intimidated by budget. And
Yes.
so people think, oh, I have to have a huge budget, especially watching those HGTV shows.
Right.
Or they go to the other extreme and they're like, hey, I can do it for 10 cents. And so there is a happy medium that
Yes.
can be there that can fit your budget, but knowing resources and places to go that you can say,
Hmm.
hey, I know that maybe I can't spend 5,000 on a sofa, but I know where I can go and get something that's less expensive, but can still work for me.
Mhm.
Absolutely,
And I
because it can be, I mean, you could actually do a space for free, a lot of sweat equity. And if you need to paint, maybe you've got some paint sitting around the house, or you can get some of the, what are they, the open, don't they have like open people return paint? So
Mhm.
sometimes it's super, super cheap.
And so it's one of those things that one of my favorite places in North Carolina in Durham is a place called Scrap Exchange. And it
Mm,
is an amazing place. I really do wish they had one around here, but that's
mm,
probably not a good thing. But they have so many different things from tile to metals, fabrics, you name it, they have it in there. People donate a lot, but it is a great place to get things that you can, reshape your home, transform your
mhm.
home, and not just, just about the tile or the larger things, but small things. I've purchased mirrors from there, then I've transformed them and made a cornice in my house. And so it can be used for different things. And
Oh,
people never really realize where the resources are. And that's one of the
yes.
tools that we also give in the classes, like, hey, here's some local resources and places that you can go
Mhm.
to find things that are, less expensive, or
Hmm.
thinking of ways that you can use those things in your home in a different way. I
Hmm.
mean, I used a uh, bed sheet, or not even a duvet cover, and it's now one of my curtains in my dining room. And you would never
Yes.
know that it's a duvet cover.
Yeah.
Yes.
But those are those things that you're like, hey, I couldn't find what I wanted in the store in the color I wanted.
Hmm.
And even having it made, they still didn't have the fabric that I wanted. And I
Uh,
just happened upon a duvet cover, and I just decided that I was just going to transform it into a curtain.
yes.
And years later, people still love it, but it's one of those things that you can do.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Using what you have. That's the biggest
Mhm,
message, right? In
mhm,
the session, using what you have. Because I've actually taken a tablecloth, and
mhm.
those were my curtains for years, and literally split it down the middle. So that covered a whole window, because it's just going to grace the sides. So
Mhm.
using what you have. And Sandra, you've done the same thing in your home.
I love repurposing. And
Yes.
Hmm.
I love saying it's vintage, right?
Yes.
Instead of
Mhm.
saying, oh, it's used. It sounds great to say it's vintage. And
Yeah.
so then, right?
Love it.
And you're like, oh, wait, this is like vintage. But absolutely, I love repurposing. I've found things for $10 at Goodwill if it has good bones. I've
Mhm.
reupholstered it. And I love repurposing, as you all say, especially things that might be sentimental, right? So it's not
Yep.
just that we're trying to be pack rats or hoarders and hold on,
Yeah.
because that's we won't allow for other things to come into our world when we just hold on to things.
Right.
But some things that have sentimental value or just has good bones, I absolutely love repurposing it and making it something new, and then being able to tell the story and share
Mm.
that with my children, like, this used to be so and so's chair that got
Mhm.
passed down, or
Yes. That
I love
legacy.
that. Yeah, because I always say, even though we live in suburbia Maryland,
Mhm.
in my mind, I'm living in a loft in New York City.
I
So
love it.
I'm repurposing everything to look like I'm somewhere that I'm not.
Yes.
And so that
Why
is
not?
right. And that's what brings me joy. Just walking in and feeling like, there's history and there's stories and everything that we, or not everything, but in a lot of the things that we have. And just being able to share those stories. I love that.
That's excellent. Excellent. That's the other key theme of this session, the using what you have and the gratitude, as you mentioned, and beginning to see your home from a whole new perspective, because that's what God is looking for. We talk about Matthew, and we talk about how the parable of the talents, and how God, when he has already provided something to us and we have not fully utilized it or maximized it, but yet we're looking for more. God is looking at us and saying, wait a minute, you've got a few more steps to go with that thing I've already given you. How can you repurpose that end table or that side table or that dresser and make it become a buffet in your dining room? So those are all the wonderful things we talk about in the session. And I see that transformation as well in the women. Like you said, maybe somebody started off, maybe they were a little depressed about their home or just didn't feel like they had enough. And then by the end of the session, realize, wow, I'm really blessed. I have so much around the home to use. Yeah.
That was actually one of my favorite parts. I think it was the last session or the second to last where women were just showing what they've done in their homes.
Yes.
And I mean, some folks are really creative. Like, I just really appreciated, like, it was almost like a show and tell, but not to make others feel less than, but it really about like, hey, here's some of the cool things that I've done. And it gave other women some ideas as well. So I loved seeing their transformations.
Absolutely. What gratitude can do, right?
Yes.
Showing what gratitude can do.
And what perspective can do. When you change your space, your perspective changes. It has to. You can't have the same room transform it and you still feel the same way.
That's a word.
It just doesn't happen.
That's a word.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't happen.
To add on to that, I believe, because my husband, maybe he might say the same or maybe disagree, but I believe when we change, it changes also our family and those around us, right? Because now we've got more joy, the space is different, and now they are starting to respond differently, right? So it's no longer like, it changed the whole home to me.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So good.
Because when you have space, and there's always spatial issues in everyone's home, and then when you transform it and all of a sudden it opens it up, it's like having 10 rooms and then suddenly it's only 3 rooms and you realize how much open space there is. And that's what it does when your perspective changes. You realize, oh, wow, I am so open now. I am so free. And that's where family comes in. They all ooh and ah, but at the same time, they really see the space for what it was.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Because I know for me, my challenge, some people have spouses who may not like change, or they themselves may not like change. And change for some can be easy for some, but difficult for others. But once it's done, because it's coming from the right perspective, you're not trying to get your husband to get rid of all the things he really likes and you just don't like it, but he realizes, wow, she's kind of showing how to repurpose. I love this chair. I don't want to get rid of this chair. I've had this chair since high school. I don't want to get rid of this chair. And you can actually find a way to repurpose it and see it from a different perspective. And now he's feeling included, right? And then at the end, he sees the one, he or she, whichever spouse or whomever family member, sees the difference and how wonderful the result is. It just, like you said, changes the whole perspective of the whole family. So
it does.
It's a win-win-win. All right. Now let's see. So what, if you can recall any specific principles from the Bible that really resonated with you during the session, because each step in the book, let me just show the book real quick. I have mine all marked up and all my little stuff in here because I read this book all the time, just trying to see what else God has for me to talk about. But each step has a God principle and a decorating principle principle. It also gives the attendees an opportunity to journal along each step. And they're also transforming a space in their home as they do each step. So is there a principle that you can think of that resonated with you the most as far as a God principle helping you in your home?
I can answer that. For me, it was,
Yeah.
and you all might remember this, but principle number 2,
Mhm.
you uniquely designed, right? So I struggled being creative, and I think I shared this during
Oh.
our class. Yes, for many years, right? So I struggled because, you know, I'm glad that my parents were like, oh, you need to be an attorney or a doctor or, you know, something like that. But when I grew up in my era, being creative was not necessarily the norm. And so this brought me back to that, like really appreciating that God made us uniquely and wonderfully made, and He created us all to be different. And who am I to say I'm not really satisfied with that, God? Because God is a creator. So He created us in His own image. That means He is a creator. So this really brought it back to me. And again, being surrounded by women who are truly creative as well, or strive to be creative, it helped me appreciate, again, going back to gratitude, appreciating that, as opposed to feeling like, oh wait, this is different and it's hard to be like a what do they say, a square peg in a round hole. So that principle for me really stood out.
Nice.
Wow, that was my same principle. Because
wow.
I did grow up in a household that where I could be creative, and I always tell my sisters and brothers that I got the best of both parents. You know, because I got the creative side of making clothes and learning about colors from my mom and all of those things. But I also got that architectural side that I can bring to design from my dad. He was a builder.
Excellent.
And so I got the best of both of them in me. And so I always tell them that I'm uniquely me. That's why my name is more unique than theirs and everything else. But it's one of those things that I really embraced early on, and my parents allowed me to. From drawing on the walls, which I did, you know, get that whipping for, but my dad, they were so involved in what I was doing. And a lot of times art is not one of those things that parents get involved in with their children. So my dad was really involved with me and making things for my Barbie dolls, from houses. We built so many different houses for my Barbie. And my mom would help me sew clothes for the Barbie and make curtains and clothes and using different elements. Even then, I remember once that I used my mother's crystal candlestick holders as tables in my Barbie house. Yeah, that didn't go over too well, but it's one of those things that even then I was learning to repurpose, like, oh, this is a good idea, and that I can use different elements for whatever it was. But I did get so much support. And that's one thing with art and creativity that's not always there.
Yeah.
And so it was great for me to have it in the home and everywhere I went. Because now, and I see it now where it's not as embraced as much. You know, art is one of those things that goes away fast in schools and everywhere else. And it's the starving artist syndrome, but it doesn't have to be. It really doesn't have to be. There's an outlet for creativity and art people all over the place, and we just have to tap into it. And it's in all of us, you know, whether it be decorating our homes or decorating Christmas trees. Everyone has that artistic ability in them, but it's just tapping into those resources. And I think for the ladies coming into the class is tapping into their inner resources that they didn't even know they had.
Didn't even know they had. Oh, that's perfect. That's a perfect point. Because what you will discover about yourself, you will learn a lot about yourself in this session. Well, I think my favorite is use what you have. That's step 5. That always has been and will be. You know, I even think about here in my office and, you know, the bookcases behind me. I've had these bookcases for years, and I really want them to be all white or all gray. And the next, who knows when I'll get the opportunity to do it, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going out to buy new bookcases. I'm going to paint the ones I have, because I want to maximize what He's already given to me. And in the story of the talents, he talks about taking the talents, which does represent money. It can represent a lot of things, but in this specific parable in the Bible, it is referring to financial resources, and He wants us to put those things in investment so that they can grow. He's expecting us to grow what he's given us, y'all.
Mhm.
So stop throwing away things in your home that you can repurpose and using monies that's supposed to be invested and growing. Yeah. So anyway, there's so much good stuff in there. So man, this time went by fast. I'm gonna start to wrap up this wonderful podcast, Sister Interior Joy Table Talk Chat. We don't have a name, but I'm creating stuff.
I love the table talk chat. I love it.
Table Talk Chat.
The IJ chat, right? Interior
Yeah.
chat, right?
IJ Chat. There it is. I like that too.
I love it.
So let's see. I do want to, because I did mention that quote, because I love that quote by Martha Beck about the spaces shaping us. And then the last question I want to ask is, what do you think is, I have two questions. What do you think is one of the main pain points that this session can address for the attendees?
Ooh. I think letting go.
Mm.
You know, we hold on to so many things in so many different ways and arenas of our life. And I think getting people to that point where letting them know that it's okay to let it go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to want to let it go. You know, sometimes the hurdle is getting to the point in our minds that, hey, if I let this go, what are people going to think? If I let this go, what is someone going to say?
Now, when you
my
say let
mom
it
is
go, exactly what do you mean? What do you let go of what?
Whether it is something tangible like furniture, or something interior, that's something going on with you, that sometimes we have to let go of past hurts, past pains. And sometimes that comes in the way of furniture pieces and items in our home that someone has given us. And every time we see it, we think of that person, and then we think of the pain that they caused us. Sometimes you've got to let that go and get it out of your space so you don't see it and you don't constantly relive that same painful moment.
Interesting.
Yeah, like triggering.
Interesting. Yeah. How about you, Sanji?
That's a good one. I was gonna say just the gratitude. I cannot stress that enough, to just be grateful in the space that you have. And I think of this in a real simple way, right? Sometimes we get so caught up on like, what type of house, what neighborhood, what do we try, all of those things, but somebody else somewhere wish they had a home to live in. Right?
Yes.
We're complaining about things. Oh, if I had my basement done, and oh, if I had this done, oh, if I had, like, we have to really, really, really be remember, like, there's places, and I don't want to sound like, oh, in other countries they don't have this, but really, running water is a big deal, right?
Yes.
So have gratitude, be grateful for the things that we do have. That to me is such a huge takeaway from this class, but letting go is another one as well.
That's good. Oh, so good, you guys. I think mine is, I guess, maybe a combination of the two of them, but definitely putting God first and honoring God with everything that you have. And that is what starts the process. We call it reciprocity in the book, where it all starts and ends with God. And so when we honor him with what we have, he will begin to show you how to repurpose those items, because gratitude increases creativity. And so these are the things that the ladies will learn, and it will address those personal pain points that we have, because sometimes those pain points are what's blocking our ability to even want to move forward and make the change. Because it is a personal, emotional experience, and sometimes we run away from that. But if we embrace it, then we'll be able to receive all that God has for us, and achieve the abundance. And when we say abundance, we mean in every area, whether it's psychologically, emotionally, relationally, physically, financially, in all those areas. Our homes are just one of the most important spaces of our lives. And so we can't keep putting it on the back burner, because subconsciously we don't realize how much is impacting our lives. So
Mhm.
we've got this session will address all of those things. And I have goosebumps right now because I'm so excited about this next session. So we want all the ladies to get ready for the registration. The seats will go fast. Yes, it's virtually, but the seats will go fast. We only have a limited number of seats because we have all of our wonderful expert leaders who are going to take you under their wing. You know, it's really cool. So it's more than a book. It's more than a workshop. It's live. It's hands-on. It's 6 weeks of looking forward to Saturday morning.
Yeah,
That's how I see it.
true.
So I want to thank you ladies so much for bringing your expertise, your heart, and just your willingness to be used by God to make the impact that you're making on ladies in this session. So with that, we're going to end our podcast, Table Talk Sister Chat.
It's all those things. I
All
love
those
it.
things, and we will see everyone in September 10th through October 22nd, every Saturday morning. All right, ladies, thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Awesome. All
Bye.
Have a
right.
great one.
You all have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.